Welcome to Better Together with your hosts, Emily Italia and Jennifer Morrow. When we all work together, we are stronger and can accomplish more for the kingdom of God. And now, here are the hosts of Better Together, Emily Italia and Jennifer Morrow.
Welcome to another episode of Better Together. I'm your co-host, Emily Italia, along with my co-host,
Jen Morrow.
Fantastic to see you again, Jen. How have you been?
I'm doing well. What about you?
Good.
Yeah?
Good. Enjoying the sunshine we got today for a
Finally.
nice break from the doldrums.
So I know that our last issue, can you tell that we work in the press?
Right.
Our last episode, we were talking about New Year's resolutions and keeping on track.
Right.
Have you had any success?
I knew you were going to ask me that
Did
today.
you really? I just thought about it now.
Well, I was counting on it because, okay, I have not been as diligent as I had hoped,
Okay.
but realistically, I knew that would happen. But I did listen to The Office this morning, and I was making an effort to follow along with the prayerful start to my day. So, small starts, I'm
Very
going to
nice.
do a little bit at a time. And how about you? Are you
Yeah.
sticking to your...
I got nothing. Listeners, I need help. Please write in, call in. I don't
Well, we did
know.
have some very cold weather right after you talked about walking and...
I did. I have that. That one I have kept up with a little bit. You know
Let's
what? I like. I think I mentioned this last time. I like walking in the rain. I know that's weird. I even like walking in the snow. And so when it's kind of the weather's not great, I will actually get out there and walk. I don't know. I find it very peaceful.
It's peaceful.
Yeah.
And I found I like to walk, and my daughter and I take photos of the birds in New Jersey.
Yeah,
And
good
the last two times we went out, it was drizzly. And, at first thought I was like, I'm not going to go. It's really miserable outside. And we braved it, and we saw so many birds. Like, they don't care. They're out there in every weather. So, we got some great pictures of some interesting birds of prey that I keep putting on Facebook.
Your daughter takes great photos.
She does.
too.
She's very talented.
And I'm always learning more about the birds through her photography. Or
goodness.
both of y'all.
I have to
actually,
ask
'cause-
her. She's really honed an ability to identify them by sound now, so she can hear them and go, "Oh yeah, that's this." I'm like, how did you get that? It sounds just like everything else to me.
I feel like I need to share this story, and I'll make it quick because it really has. It just has to do with birds.
Oh,
But my sister was under the weather recently, and so I called her to see how she was feeling, and she's sick for like a week. She's going to kill me for telling this story.
oh no.
And I said, "Well, what have you been doing?" And she's like, "I'm trying to befriend some crows." And I said, "What?" And so she tells me how she's feeding the crows peanuts,
Oh my goodness.
as well as watching YouTube videos on how to call like a crow. And then I asked her, "Can you do it for me? I need to hear it." And she did, and she sounded just like a crow.
She sounds like she's been practicing.
She has, and I was laughing, and I would say, "I'm gonna have to hook her up with you. You guys can go out together with the birds, and she can call the crows."
That would be amazing.
She's gonna be like, "I
Oh
can't
my
believe
gosh.
you just told the whole people that." But I was very impressed with her crow cawing. So
That's a good talent to have. Not one that I possess.
don't know, me neither, but it was pretty legit.
Oh man, what's going on in the Camden Diocese?
Well, actually, we have some pretty exciting things going on. I'll just be quick. One of the coolest things that's happened in the last week is that our team went over to a local chef in Woodbury, Giannina's, where the chef and co-owner cooked a meatless Lenten Valentine's Ash Wednesday meal that we have the recipe, and we have a 5-minute video. You can watch him cook it. So the idea was, obviously we're fasting on Ash Wednesday, so only which also is Valentine's Day.
Right.
And so the idea was, if you still want to have your one meal, and still have like a little romantic thing, make this meal. So it's amazing.
I love
the restaurant, like I said, is Giannina's in Woodbury, and the chef made a shrimp and crab dish over pasta with a blush sauce. And like I said, you can watch the video. It's only 5 minutes, and it's like all ingredients that you have in your house, pretty
Oh,
much,
my
except for
goodness.
the crab and shrimp, but it's not that much. So go to CatholicStarHerald.org and check it out.
I am all over that.
Yeah, it looks delicious. I wish I was on that assignment because it looked really yummy, and I think they all got to taste it, and they said it was phenomenal.
Oh my.
And then the other thing going on at the Catholic Star Herald, the Diocese of Camden's newspaper specifically, is that we are asking all of our readers to take a survey and let us know what you like about the Catholic Star Herald or what you'd like to see more of. And we're really hoping to hear from as many people as we can. That is online, but we're also going to run it in the paper in the next issue for
Great.
readers who might not be online. But I will tell you, we've launched it a soft launch about 3 weeks ago, and we've gotten a lot of feedback. So anybody who's in the Camden Diocese or not, and you just want to check out our paper and see what you like and what we could do better, please go to CatholicStarHerald.org, and right at the top is the link to the survey. And the cool thing about the survey is there will be 3 chances to win a $50 gift card. So
Fantastic.
take the survey and maybe win a $50 gift card.
Very nice.
Yeah, so those are some of the quick things. What about Diocese of Trenton?
I was just going to say on that, it's really helpful to media publications to have some feedback from their viewers because you don't always know. I mean, we know what we think looks good and what's interesting, but it's helpful to hear from people who are reading it and seeing it for the first time because we see these things for several weeks before they end up going to press.
Right.
And sometimes you get a little, I don't know, different perspective when it's somebody who's just seen it fresh. So
Right.
it's really super helpful.
And sometimes, I mean, we've been in the journalism business or Catholic journalism business both for a long time, and I love hearing new ideas.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes it can get easy for any profession to get stuck in what we've always done before. So
Right.
want to
We
hear
know what
more.
works and
Yeah, we know what works. We want to hear some, maybe ideas that we haven't thought of before.
Well, speaking of publications, we just wrapped our February issue of The Monitor last night. And so look forward to that next week in your inboxes. And then you'll see some of those stories online as well following that. We just covered our Diocesan Youth Conference over in Red Bank Catholic High School.
Yep.
Wonderful event. Over 800 students attended.
Oh, wow.
And it was just
good turnout.
a beautiful day. So there, of course, we always have more room for photos and extra story online. So what you see in the magazine is beautiful. And then just hit up our website, TrentonMonitor.com, for extra info and beautiful photos. Mike Ehrman does an amazing job every assignment we send him on. Our clergy, we had like 20 priests of the diocese plus Bishop O'Connell and a couple of chancery staff went to Rome in January. So we have a beautiful photo spread on that, another photo gallery to kind of feature that. And the best news of that was that while in Rome, as most of you know, Bishop O'Connell did experience a heart attack, and then he was in recovery for part of the trip, but he was able to get back to the Pope's audience on January 10th, I think it was, with the rest of the group and get to see Pope Francis for a second time. And he's now recovering at home on the mend and with a modified schedule. So we just continue to keep Bishop O'Connell in our prayers.
Absolutely.
Continued healing. One thing that we're doing, we introduced in January, it's a new feature that's running every month called Be Inspired. And last month was our big launch, so we had several stories. Now we're going to have one feature each issue. And this issue is a feature on Sister Carol McKenthon, whose work has bridged 2 dioceses. She was working in both the Metuchen Diocese and in the Trenton Diocese throughout her 60 years as a Sister of Mercy.
Okay.
She just celebrated her anniversary this
60
past year.
years.
60 years
Yay.
in Catholic education, just in time for Catholic Schools Week. So just definitely check that out in our issue. You won't be disappointed. She was a joy to talk to.
I
had a great
love
interview.
reading about the vocations of our clergy and religious men and women. I just love hearing their stories, usually their vocations, like what they're doing during, like I believe probably Sister had some outreach projects that were close to her heart. I just love reading these things.
Oh, definitely. And they're also varied, just like we are. Everybody has a different vocation in some form or another, and those individual vocations take such different paths. So I'm fascinated to hear how she ended up here in our diocese and, doing very well.
Nice.
I think that's the main stuff that we had going on. Of course, we're right in front of National Marriage Week. Actually, we just started it February 7th through the 14th. And then World Marriage Day is coming up this weekend, Sunday, February 11th. Nationwide celebration, and there's all kinds of resources out there on the foryourmarriage.org website. It's run by the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. And so it's just phenomenal what they've put together. They have sections for dating, engaged, married life, family life, and parenting. And I'm just so impressed with the variety that they have there. So it's worth checking out. Go to foryourmarriage.org.
Is it like advice, tips?
Everything.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of guidance for those who are in whatever stage of life you're in. And I read a blog post just this morning. It was written by Archbishop Joseph Naumann, and it's called "The Long-Term Health of Our Society Depends on Strong Marriages." And it really spoke to me because it's talking about how our society is just completely on its ear compared to the way it was, 50 years ago. We often hear about a vocations crisis in the church, which is very real, and it's usually talking about the priesthood and consecrated life. But there's a broader crisis in marriage in that there are so many fewer young couples that are willing to make that long-term commitment.
Right.
And I think the article said that in 250 years almost of America's history, more than half of the adults are unmarried. And that's for the first time in our nation's history that we've had more than half of the marriageable age adults unmarried.
Right.
And correlating with that, nearly half of all Americans are reporting feeling lonely, sometimes or always. Both Gen Z and millennials seem to be at the highest. I think Gen Z was the highest rate of loneliness. That's people who were born after 1997. And then millennials born between 1981 and 1996 were the next highest in loneliness.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's just striking
Yeah.
how we have this phenomenon happening in our society. And I think this website and some of our guests today will help address some of those issues, give us some ideas.
And I think, that's kind of important to note as well, because that does impact vocations, like you were saying
Right.
about, the vocations numbers going down. I mean, there's always so much discussion about how important family life is to a vocation and how important like a parent's support or a sibling support to a young man considering, discerning the priesthood or women in a religious life. So if we're already having some numbers decreasing in the family unit, I mean, it would kind of almost seem to correlate directly to why one reason we could see vocations decreasing as
Absolutely.
well.
The article said something about that as well. They're mentioning that the domestic church is where the faith begins and is fostered and where
Right.
vocations begin. So if the domestic church is declining, then therefore we will see declines in all vocations. So that's something that they're really working hard to address.
Well, as you said, listeners, today we're going to be talking about, we thought, with Lent coming up and Ash Wednesday also falling on Valentine's Day. Not that Valentine's Day, have I heard that Saint Valentine, actually is not related to love per se? Am I right on that?
No, it's interesting. I had a book as a child that was gifted by a relative about St. Valentine. And I think it took from some of the story about him, but it was mostly he had a relationship with some young Roman, or was it Rome or Greek? I forget. He was in Rome, right? Some younger kids who used to come to his backyard and
Okay.
want to see his birds or his flowers or something. And he developed a relationship with them. And he was imprisoned, and he would send notes to them via dove, kind of like
Was
a
it a
carrier
crow?
pigeon.
What about a crow?
Maybe. Who knows? We weren't there.
And crows. Crows.
But I think that was the idea of the Valentine, the sending the notes back and
Gotcha.
forth. He was corresponding from prison.
Okay.
But I don't know how much of that was artistic license. Yeah, I
Right.
just thought it was a sweet story.
It is a sweet story.
So anyway,
Also with
St.
crows.
Valentine.
So we're going to be talking about marriage, as Emily alluded to. We're our next guest. We'll be talking about marriage, and then Lent, and then that will lead into our other guest, which he's a Monsignor from the Diocese of Metuchen, and he will be speaking about Ash Wednesday, Lent, and prayer life. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Father Benedict Groeschel.
There are legitimate differences of opinion in any religion. There are differences of opinion in Catholicism. But in Catholicism, you expect that people will take the teaching of its supreme authority seriously. To go diametrically opposed to those teachings is to not be a Catholic. Someone in the name of Catholicism is sponsoring the destruction of human life, lives of unborn children. And they got the name Catholic on the door. The highest authority in Catholicism and the encyclical Humanae Vitae, Evangelium Vitae, is absolutely clear that no Catholic can support abortion and that Catholics are responsible to take serious action against legalized abortion.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Dr. Simon Greenleaf was a Harvard law professor. He wanted to debunk Christianity. He thought everything these people believe rests on their claim that Jesus rose from the dead, but that wouldn't even hold up in court. So he started writing about it, and he became a Christian. Why? He eventually concluded, what's going to put someone away in court? An eyewitness. What if you have a bunch of eyewitnesses? Jail. What if the eyewitnesses are all willing to die for what they saw? Case closed. That's what we have with the rising of Jesus from the dead. Not just people dying for a belief system. These people died for something way more than that. They died for something they saw. Big difference. St. Peter was crucified. He said, I'm not worthy to die like my Lord. Crucify me upside down. St. Bartholomew was skinned alive. It makes no sense to do that for a lie. The resurrection of Jesus, God conquering death, it's the best news in history. And the best part about it is, it's all real. This is Chris Stefanik from RealLifeCatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Better Together. Jen Morrow here with Emily Italia. And we have on the line with us right now Deacon Bob and Shirley Oliver. Good morning.
Hello. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you both?
Good.
We're doing well.
Good. So listeners, we have Deacon Bob and Shirley are from St. Joseph Parish in Summers Point. And, they have a very interesting program going on at the parish for Lent. But before we get into that, we'll talk a little bit about you both teach, have worked with marriage ministry for a long time, and maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I guess it started, 13, 14 years ago when Living in Love started in the diocese. We looked at the promises, the idea that, you could mentor couples, help them have a better marriage, and also be able to preach the gospel a little bit. And that seemed like a good fit for us.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been doing that in various forms now since then. I guess, let's see, we were 37 when we started it. That's how I have to figure it out. So it's been, wow.
A long time.
Lots of experience.
I don't want to do the math. It's been a while.
This is Emily Italia, by the way. In all of your years mentoring these engaged couples, is there anything that you notice about today's couples in preparing for marriage that you'd say is strikingly different from when you were getting married and when you were preparing for marriage?
Oh, when we were getting married? Well, our marriage prep was, pretty light, I think. We had conversations with the Newman Center priest at Drexel, and that's pretty much, that was pretty much it for us. Today, marriage prep, I think, is more inclusive. Couples are, it's rare now to find a couple that's not already living together. It's rare. When we were getting married, we weren't really that mature. We didn't know what we were getting into. But I think that's kind of typical today. Mostly everybody that comes to us is older than we were when we got married.
I was going to say that's probably a striking difference, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we were married in 73 and, in our early 20s.
I've heard it said that there's some advantages to marrying younger because you're building your life together rather than establishing a life as individuals and then trying to merge that with your spouse. What have you observed in terms of the other couples or in your own married life, how that's worked for you?
Go ahead.
I think when people wait to get their lives in order and get established, it's a little bit of a disadvantage because it's only about me. What do I want in my life? And when you're married early, you're focusing a little bit more on what is good for us. That's not true for everybody, but I see that a lot where the couples are, it's what I'm doing, what she's doing, or he's doing, and they got to start thinking together what is good for us.
That's a
I
challenge.
think that's probably the most important factor in marriage is when, marriage makes us one of the ways it does that is to have a focus and an attention towards us rather than you and me, rather than we. There's a difference. It's like when we make a decision, we ask what's good for us.
Right.
What do we want to do? What do we want out of our life? And it's a kind of you have a mindset of being together. You've made a commitment forever.
I know there's a wonderful article for the Catholic Star Herald. You did an interview with David Karras a bit ago, and something I read in the article is you had said that a common faith, or at least a common search for the truth, can last forever. How do you seek truth together as a couple? What sort of things do you do in order to go on that journey together?
Well, we're involved in the church together. When we first got married, Shirley was Presbyterian and I was Catholic, but I was kind of a nominal Catholic. We got married. We went to church, and I like to tell people we went to church for fire insurance rather than really getting something out of it. Because people say, well, you go to church, you go to hell, and I thought hell was probably the least objectionable of those two.
No. Going to
the
church.
Most objectionable.
You said that wrong.
Yeah, okay, I got it backwards. But I know personally, I got to the point where I was really questioning, like, what am I doing here? Why am I even going to church? And that's when my sister went crazy and became a member of the Charismatic Renewal and so on. And in my attempt to help her, she actually helped me. We got involved in the Charismatic Renewal, and that's really what brought our faith in sync together. I distinctly remember. Well, let me back up a little bit. Shirley had promised to raise the kids Catholic because you needed to do that at the time, but she was serious about it. So she didn't know a lot about the Catholic Church, and we went to RCIA, which it wasn't really called that at the time, but we went there. Talk with the pastor so that she could teach the kids what it means to be Catholic without any intention of converting. And it wasn't for 3 or 4 years later, we were coming back from a meeting and she just stopped the car. I think I want to be Catholic. Not I think I want to be. She says, God wants me to be Catholic. And she made her first communion the next Sunday and confirmed a month later because we had already been through the whole process.
Oh, my goodness.
It was really the best decision, one of the best decisions I ever made, because I felt like I was whole again, and our marriage was more whole instead of being slightly splintered,
Mm-hmm. Being on the same path.
Yeah, definitely. And our kids benefited from that, too, having that, going... I always went to church with Bob and the kids, but now I was participating in the Mass. And I think they saw the difference. So it was good.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know at the parish, correct me if I'm wrong, but you use a program called the Marriage Course. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, can you just explain a little bit about what it is and how it helps married couples improve their marriage?
Okay, well, the Marriage Course is kind of linked with a program called Alpha that we've been using for a couple of years in the parish. It's a basic evangelization program. You can find out about it on alphausa.org, I think it is. But the Marriage Course is a little bit newer than that. And because we were involved with Alpha, we did the Marriage Course online a year ago. And we realized, they're doing the same thing. They're teaching the same thing in very much the same kind of a format, but it's online. It's on video rather than and having meetings with couples, we decided we would try to adopt that. It's designed for married couples, but it's also can be used for for people who are engaged. And let's face it, most engaged couples today are living together already anyhow, so they need to know a little bit more about marriage from that point of view.
So go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask, how does the course help the couples improve their marriage, or if they're preparing, how does it help them prepare? What are some of the elements?
Well, big elements are, like trying to make that connection to us rather than we. To have they talk about communication is a good deal. How to resolve problems, and it's when you think of marriage prep, a lot of times you think of, well, you're going to talk about finances, you're going to talk about this. We really try to emphasize more the tools that you would use to solve problems rather than the individual problems per se. Communication is a big part, knowing how to talk with one another.
And we do add a Catholic element to the videos, what a Catholic marriage looks like, how does it differ because of the sacrament of marriage in the Catholic Church, how it differs from other faith beliefs. And it really, I think it gets into the young people's minds that, we really do need to be to strengthen our faith and to be part of the church also with our marriage life. Because that's where you get community. You can't just, live your life on a little island by yourselves. You need to be part of a group.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking how important that is. I mean, especially I think when you first get married, or at least me, I was like, oh, it's, you're in that romantic love, right? And all that too. But, as your marriage continues, you realize you need prayer, you need the community, you need a faith-based community to walk with you. And, and also for you to walk with others.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I've really been enjoying the marriage course. It frees our time up a little bit because the couples can do the videos by themselves and then get back to us, and we have that conversation. But we got that common outlook, I guess you would say, and some of the young people are saying, "Hey, I really need to get my life in order." So that's good.
That's good.
Does the course have an in-person group element? Do you get the couples get together with other married couples, or is it more of a one couple works with you?
Couples typically get together with other couples. The format is very similar to what we were planning for Lenten date nights. Is you have a meal together, and with all the couples that show up. But the conversation, it's a video with interspersed conversations with the couples, and the conversations between couples are between the couples. They're not shared with the group.
Sure. Can you tell us more about those Lenten date nights?
So I thought this was so cool when I saw it in your parish bulletin. So tell us a little bit about Lenten date nights. When does it start and what it entails?
Well, it starts the day before Ash Wednesday, and it starts at 6 p.m. in our parish hall. We're going to have 30-minute time for a meal. Shirley cooks the meal. And we've been doing this kind of a thing for several years now where we cook a meal and we have a program. So the program is going to be the marriage course. Each video is, it's probably 45 minutes of content, but interspersed, it's going to take about an hour and a half. So it's a 2-hour program. We do that 7 weeks in a row, which brings us up to the Tuesday of Easter week. And then we have the final session, what is a Catholic marriage, Tuesday after Easter.
I love this idea of doing it during Lent. Is that something that y'all came up with, or like what was the thought behind let's do a Lenten date night? Like everybody knows the soup and stations,
right?
But Lenten date night, I love the concept. Like, how did that come about?
Well, it came about because we wanted to do something for married couples, and Lent's approaching, so it seemed like a fit. We we didn't plan it to be like this big Lenten thing, but we're I don't know about you, but every year, like, I try to figure out what am I going to do for Lent, and it's always like, I want to do something positive, I want to do something sacrificial, and so on. And it's like, this would be a great thing. You have the element of sacrifice because you got to take the time out of your week. You got to come to the thing. And then you also have this positive element where you're really building a relationship with the one you love the most.
Right. Lent is all about, not just about taking something away for that 6-week period, but doing something positive, helping to make a big change. And what better way to make a change than to really work on your communication skills as a couple?
And the fact that you have it multiple times, you said 7 sessions, it's keeping you on track, keeping you in a pattern, so that maybe once that's established at the end, it's something that the couple maybe continues on their own or finds, okay, we can take this concept and, we're going to plan a date night, but we're also going to plan something spiritually enriching to go along with it.
Mm-hmm. I also love the concept because Pope Francis's message this year for Lent speaks a lot about love. He talks about pausing for prayer and to assisting our brothers and sisters in need, and those in the communities. And then it goes on, to talk about. But he is talking about love, and to me that kind of goes in with this Lenten date night idea, because, like you said, you're not only building your own relationship, but being with those other couples. I think that is changing the communities. That's the way I look at it. I kind of tied this idea into Pope Francis's message because it's about love, and I thought that was a wonderful idea. So can you tell everybody again, if they're interested, where it's at and how they can contact you if they're interested in coming?
It's at St. Joseph's in Summers Point. That's 606 Shore Road in Summers Point. It's going to be 6 p.m. Tuesday nights. The easiest way to register or to contact is to send me an email at Lenten-date-night, or might be night. I have to check it.
We can put it in the write-up too
that's a good
in the social media post.
Put it in the write-up.
Okay.
And then at stjosephsummerspoint.org. And that's Saint with SST, Joseph Summers Point.org.
And we'll get a delicious meal cooked weekly by you, Shirley. Is that what I hear?
Yes, I do. Well, Bob's got a couple of criteria. It's got to be something that if we have leftovers, he doesn't mind eating.
That's a good criteria. That's important.
That's pretty good.
It has to be good, it has to be savable, and it has to be easy.
There you go.
But you can make some really good, she's famous for all the good meals that we have with our...
I'm not a professional chef, but I do like to cook. And
she is a life skills teacher, though.
Retired, yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. All right, let's pick up some extra skills.
Yeah.
Well, Deacon, Bob and Shirley, thank you very much for joining us. And we'll, like I said, we'll put the information in the write-up and have a very holy Lent.
Thank you very much.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. Everybody, we'll be right back with our next guest.
Hello, I'm Bishop David O'Connell of the Diocese of Trenton. This is a Eucharistic moment. The Holy Eucharist is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of the Lord Jesus Christ, Catholics are accustomed to say. It is not a sign or symbol. The Holy Eucharist is the Lord Jesus Christ, real, true, entire, and substantial. The bread and wine placed on the altar at every celebration of Holy Mass becomes the body and blood of the Lord Jesus Christ through the power of the Holy Spirit and the instrumentality of the priest. The Church refers to this action as transubstantiation. Though the appearance of bread and wine remain, the whole Christ, crucified and risen from the dead in glory, is truly and really present. The Holy Eucharist is his real presence, a mystery and reality, the source and summit of the Christian faith and Christian spirituality.
It started like it does for many people, question my faith and question authority. And I feel that the reason why I left was the draw of the world. The world was pulling me away. Some people would say, Satan was working on me. He did not want me in church. He wanted me to be desperate. He wanted me to have the thoughts of suicide. I started to realize that a lot of the things that I had experienced in my life were a result of my rebellion against God and against authority. Coming back to the church is the first step in healing from all of the hurts of the world. I went from being desperate and in despair to finding hope and encouragement for the future. I'm on God's team. I know who I belong to, and I know where I'm going, and there's nothing that can separate me from God's love.
Take another look at the Catholic Church. Visit CatholicsComeHome.org today.
Welcome back to Better Together, where we are branching out to other dioceses in our listening area. I'm Emily Italia, along with Jennifer Morrow. And on the phone today, we have Monsignor Joseph Kerrigan, who is pastor at St. Joseph Parish in Bound Brook. And we would like to have a visit with you, Monsignor. Thank you for coming on our show today. We'd like to
Thank you for having me, and good morning.
Yeah, what a great opportunity. We wanted to get your reflections and guidance on not only the Pope's Lenten message for this year, but also maybe some of your reflections on Ash Wednesday and Lent in general.
Well, thanks. Well, this Ash Wednesday will surely be the most different one in the last 80 years. For the first time, as you know, since 1945. Ash Wednesday and Valentine's Day converge, and I just wrapped up my morning mass here at the parish, and a couple of folks stopped me and wanted to know if they could have a big festive Valentine's Day dinner and so on and so forth. So it'll be kind of interesting from that standpoint, just the opening day of Lent, on how folks respond, because in most of our lifetimes we have not had this parallel before. But the bigger point of the entire season is that it's a call to conversion. It's kind of our 40 days to roll out our greatest hits scripturally and to have ourselves aligned with the conversion and transformation that's implied or sometimes made very clear in the readings and the flow of the Lenten season. And this year, Pope Francis, his letter, I think, just in the theme, through the desert, God leads us to freedom. There's the sense of journey, there's the sense of pathway, and a sense of tools that we bring into the desert by acting and pausing, as he mentions in his letter to all the faithful.
That's a great point. I love the imagery of starting in the desert, especially since we're starting with Jesus in the desert and working our way through his ministry. And it can feel a bit like a desert as a Catholic in today's society, just being kind of set apart on our mission. And you mentioned the call to conversion. What are some ideas for how we can make our Ash Wednesday and Lent experience more intentional in our conversion? Because a lot of us have been through many Lents in the Catholic Church, and there's a struggle every year to kind of come up with a new approach or a new goal. What's your advice on that?
Well, one of the things I like to encourage and practice myself is to take Jesus at his word right from the get-go on Ash Wednesday in that Gospel of Matthew, the 6th chapter, when, for example, he speaks of prayer and says, when you pray, go to your inner room, close the door, and pray to your Father in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will repay you. So go to your inner room. A lot of us don't think about us having an inner room and a space where we especially encounter the divine. It can be related to a physical space, but more importantly, it's related to our inner life. So I think if we use Lent as a time to go deeper and to think of Lent as a container in time and space to go deeper, and particularly for a lot of us who have gone through our formation as Catholics and we weren't exposed to the contemplative life. It was something that, in the wisdom of our catechists, maybe as sixth graders or seventh graders getting ready for confirmation, contemplation might seem a little heavy. Although I don't think that's true today. I find that coaches in middle school and high school of sports teams are teaching their athletes how to meditate, and we're missing an opportunity as an aside. But surely as adults, we have so much access to Catholic, Christian meditation practices, and Lent is the ideal time. I mean, as I said, it's taking Jesus at his word. It's going into the desert just within us. And the desert monks had a nice expression, very powerful. They would say, go sit in your cell and your cell will teach you everything. So if we take up that invitation to somehow develop a practice over Lent that is interior, that is contemplative, as Pope Francis actually alludes to in his letter. He says it is a time to act, and in Lent, to act also means to pause in prayer. The contemplative dimension of life that Lent helps us to rediscover will release new energies, he wrote. So even in someone who has a very peripatetic ministry, a Jesuit apostolic community, this year he's also lifting up the invitation to take up a little contemplative dimension in our life. And if we don't put aside, but just see the external obligations for what they are, fasting, abstinence, the important days, the Triduum, the Stations of the Cross, see them for what they are, partake in them as we must, but to look about going deeper within and to develop some kind of a inner room within us by the end of the season.
Monsignor, do you think that it's more important for quality of prayer versus quantity of prayer?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's so much that I have discovered in my own life, and I know for many others, the benefits of going deeper in prayer have so much positives to be said for them than simply, not dismissing it, but simply doing a lot of stuff one after another where you're not pausing. You're in public worship and you're just looking at things at the public level. I mean, you could obviously have an inner experience of prayer in a public setting, but it's good to have a pure inner experience just by yourself, because I think that's where the quality will emerge.
I was spending some time yesterday with some young men in discernment, doing some research for an article, and it was very interesting because they're in this, first year of discernment, and they don't have technology, right? They don't have access to technology right now, except for like one day a week. And what one of the young men said was, at first, like if you have trouble sleeping, right? What do you do? He's like, usually I would just grab my phone and put on music or listen to something. He's like, but I can't do that. I don't have technology. So instead of grabbing his phone and listening to something, he picks up a book and goes and reading into a religious book, into prayer, or he just dives into his prayer life. And he said that has just opened up his worldview, prayer view, because we're all such attached to our technology. That's the first thing you grab, and now he doesn't. The first thing he grabs is a book, or he just starts to pray, and that really struck home with me. That's something I should try this Lent.
It's really hard.
And so he's really creating some new spaces for himself that have practical benefit in his sleep through his prayer life, for example. And I think most of us could say that the big downfall of our devices and all this flow of information is that we can't process it all, and so we can't sleep, and we're fragmented, and we react in a knee-jerk way to things that life throws at us in the midst of all this onslaught of information. But if you have created this inner space, and that's great that he's doing it just in his discernment phase, I would wager that not only does he sleep better, but he's not going to get caught up in an argument with somebody where he says something he regrets. He's got a deeper wellspring to draw from, and that's always a good thing. It's in your self-interest, if you want to look at it that way, to be more resilient in situations about how to get to sleep, how to encounter someone who is negative to us, and so on and so forth. Even though that's not the point, the self-interest, the point is the exact opposite, letting go in the spirit of Jesus, and to not cling to this scrap of information and that, but just to let go of it all and empty ourselves so that God can work more powerfully.
Technology really has made everything a public space because it's constantly with us. It's constantly interrupting us. And I love that this priest is taking, or this seminarian was taking an opportunity and deepening his prayer life away from the technology. It's a great reminder that this isn't always how it used to be. It used to be much easier to step away, I think, and we have to be very intentional about it now. And your advice to pause, we're not great about pausing now when we have all of these things demanding our attention all the time, and it's really hard to hear God's voice. When I was talking to Sister Carol McKenton earlier this week, she was saying, you have to be quiet in order to hear God's voice, because he doesn't stand up and yell. He's not competing with all the noise that's out there. He whispers. And so in order to hear him and to have that relationship with him, we have to find a quiet space that's removed from the distractions.
You're so right. And I would add to that, here in New Jersey, from top to bottom in the state, there's fewer retreat houses that are open. So even opportunities to physically seek some quiet institutionally, they're not as abundant as they were. So we have to do that work ourselves. And again, his example, the seminarian, is a great anecdote of wisdom that is and can be helpful for others.
That's so true about the retreat houses. Oh, we're getting ready to do an issue of the Catholic Star Herald about retreats and shrines, and trying to find some in the area is just becoming more and more difficult. I also feel like going to a shrine is very peaceful as well. I find that as a good prayer experience. But yeah, they are becoming harder to find, which is unfortunate. I like the word you used, Monsignor, is fragmented. I think that's a good way to describe today's society and individuals.
Yes, and Lent is our opportunity, our container to defragment ourselves. There's, I think, some studies that a 40-ish day period of time can really affect all kinds of changes if we wanted to go on a diet or exercise or some discipline. So we have the sense of a beginning and an end and a journey throughout. And if we use it well, we could come out on March 31st, on Easter Sunday, feeling less fragmented, and that we have some more resilience and openness to God's role in our lives and see it as a very good and practical thing.
Is there anything in particular, Monsignor, that you do as a priest who's very close to the Mass and celebrating every part of the church year to find a way to renew that so that when you're imparting your wisdom and trying to seek wisdom from God in Lent, how are you making this Lent a little bit different? What inspires you?
Well, I look at Lent also as kind of, and it coincides calendar-wise with Major League Baseball spring training, where I think we're actually beginning around the same time this year that the teams are all reporting to their spring training camps. And when they go, they do a lot of repetitive exercises that they've no doubt done since they were children, but it's in the intentionality with that and the sense that the season is starting that I think gives it its added value. So I lately have not been one to add things, but to do what I already do without the shortcuts. So, for example, I have a contemplative practice where twice a day for 25 minutes I pray in the morning, centering prayer, and in the evening, Christian meditation. They're kind of the two most popularized forms of Christian or Catholic meditation, both in a sense not founded but popularized by Catholic monks in the 1970s and 80s. And in Lent, I'll be less flexible with myself. I'll do the full 25 minutes. I won't say, okay, that's 20, that's good, because that's when you start cutting corners, you could start cutting more corners. That creates its own energy. So I'll be very disciplined about that. And I have a whole morning prayer routine of about 90 minutes or so that includes that. That, again, I won't be cutting corners. I'll be getting up at the hour I say I want to get up. And all of that will lead to, hopefully, a better liturgy at 8:30 in the morning when I hit the altar. Here, I always get a second chance. We're a little bit of a unique parish in that we have 2 daily masses, one in English and one in Spanish, so in the evening. So I have a higher degree of confidence that I'll get at least one of them right in my message if I do that work beforehand in the morning.
It's your spring training.
That's right.
Senior.
Yes. Oh, it absolutely is. It's my spring training. Yeah, and Lent is a preparatory season. It's not an end in itself. It culminates in an even greater set of days, as you know, the 50 days of Easter. So we're really preparing and training to be missionary disciples of good news come this year, March 31st.
And just to clear up some misconceptions, coffee, need it. There is. I've heard some people asking, will there be a dispensation on Ash Wednesday for Valentine's Day? That is a no-go, correct? That is absolutely a no-go.
Yeah, and this was what a couple of my parishioners were seeking when they came up to me after Mass today, and I've had a few more. I'm sure every priest has had somebody trying to cut a corner on that. And for me, it's funny. I'm half Slovakian, and it's not so much Valentine's Day. There is no Saint Valentine's Day on February 14th of the Catholic Church liturgical calendar in the United States. It's the feast of Cyril and Methodius every February 14th, and they're the great apostle to the Slavs. So anybody who's Czech, Croatian, Slovak, Slovenian, this is kind of like our St. Patrick's Day. So I'm more personally just like, oh, we can't celebrate these two guys this year. So I have less sympathy for Valentine's Day because it's not really on our calendar. And I mean, I've been goofing around and saying, well, don't worry, I'm giving out chocolate and roses instead of ashes, so we're covered that way. But almost to say, don't be ridiculous. Come on, Ash Wednesday is sacrosanct. Let's get that right. There's no second place. There's no 1A and 1B this year. It's Ash Wednesday, and just work around that. Do something. The one gentleman who came up to me who was listening in to the conversation said that he found that it was easier to get a reservation at a restaurant 2 days before. So there are plus sides of pushing Valentine's Day a little bit in the corner this year and leaving Ash Wednesday as it is.
Well, Monsignor, we are about out of time, but it has been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for being our first guest outside the Trenton and Camden Diocese. We will send you chocolate and roses after lunch.
Thank you so much.
I hope I haven't ruined it for my brothers and sisters in the Metuchen Diocese, and that there will be other invitations as well. But thank you so much. I really enjoyed speaking with you this morning.
Thank you.
And have a great Lent.
Thank you. You as well. Everybody, thank you again for tuning in to Better Together, and we'll see you next time.
Happy and Holy Lent.